Welcome to Inspirational Journeys of the Best Minds, a podcast presented by IMERGEY that unravels the fascinating stories of exceptional leaders who have left a mark on their industries. I'm your host, Ria, and we have a special guest joining us. She is someone who has made a significant impact in the insurance world, known for her transformative strategies and her commitment to making insurance more inclusive and accessible to all. With almost 20 years of senior management experience, Melissa Henson, the Chief Marketing Officer at AIA Philippines, has proven herself as a dynamic leader, consistently driving business growth and brand recognition. Through her campaigns introducing innovative products and embracing digitalization, Melissa has developed disruptive campaigns that has been instrumental in overcoming the perception that insurance is expensive and a luxury. Melissa's dedication to making a positive impact has not only transformed the insurance industry, but has inspired countless aspiring marketers and individuals looking to make a difference. We are truly excited to have Melissa join us today. Welcome, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you.
Hi, Ria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you today.
So, your remarkable contributions, commitment to empowering others, and ability to connect has set you apart in this field. So, I want us to kickstart our conversation by getting to know you a bit more from your roots, from where you started. So, one of my first questions to you would be, what was it that you wanted to be as a child or growing up, and how did you get started in your career?
So when I was a little girl, I think the first thing I said was I wanted to be a nurse. That evolved through many discussions with my parents into wanting to become a doctor. So I grew up with that aspiration, and I carried that with me all the way to the beginning of undergrad. So actually, everything I applied for in terms of undergrad courses, everything was pre-med. But before I set foot in university on the first day, I actually had decided that it wasn't for me. After much deliberation and thinking, I realized I didn't want to be in school for that much longer, for one. And really, I didn't think, and I still don't think, that I would be able to cut another person open or inject anyone. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I decided that that wasn't for me. And there began a journey to find what it was really that I wanted to do.
And I believe you grew up in the Philippines. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I was born and raised in the Philippines, but I think what I consider to be my true place of growth, where I really grew up and sort of evolved as a person, was when I actually left the Philippines. I left at 23 to pursue my MBA in the US. I think growing up here, I was quite sheltered, and we tend to grow up in fairly homogeneous environments. So we go to school with people who are like us. We spend time with people who are like us. And I think I really grew up when I left. And found myself in an environment with people from many different cultures, many different countries. And I think a lot of the outlook I have today comes out of that experience of being away from home, finding a new home for myself in a place that was very, very different, and then making my way back to my roots eventually.
How is the transition period? I mean, someone like myself as well who has to transitioned, across different countries. How is that for you from the Philippines to the US? Were there any challenges as part of that?
I mean, I think to some extent, we have a fairly westernized culture in the Philippines, and we're very, very much exposed to American culture. So that made it a little bit easier from an
Okay.
integration standpoint. It was, however, the first time I was going to be away from my family and friends for an extended period of time. So, in many ways, there was a bit of starting over. And I think moving out of a zone of safety that I had grown up in and had been in for most of my life. My trips to the US prior were mostly to just travel and visit. And I ended up in Washington, D.C., which I had only visited a couple of times for a few days. So it was very, very new. And I think if there are any challenges, it was really learning to do a lot of stuff for myself on my own, having come from a very sheltered life in the Philippines where things were done for me and I was very well cared for. So learning to care for myself. Also starting over from the standpoint of social circles, rebuilding my social circles, finding new friends, finding sort of my pocket within school, within my network in school. And then I think what I didn't expect, to be honest, was how from day one, it was all about networking and building up for our post MBA career, and that's what I had to balance. I was resettling myself, but at the
Mm,
same time, I had to plan for what was going to be next.
right. So from thinking of, pursuing a medical profession to moving into marketing, how did you transition and what made you transition into this particular side of the industry?
So, what actually got me to say that I wanted to go first into nursing and then into medicine was, even as a kid, I said I wanted to take care of people. So there's this interest in people. There is an interest in learning about others, being able to help others, that I think I carry to this day. And the pre-med course I was in at the university I went in was BS psychology. So I actually stuck it out. I did all of
Mm,
the sciences just because I was already there, but largely because that interest in people continued, and learning about people, understanding people better, is something that I just continue to find fascinating. And I think that's what attracted me to marketing as well, because it's really at its heart understanding a need, understanding
yeah,
customers, understanding other people, and finding ways we can make things better for them and we can meet their needs, help them achieve their goals and aspirations, and just get better a little bit as they go through everyday life.
right. And while moving into the marketing field, is there any specific moment that was a turning point for you in your career?
So it wasn't something that I came to overnight. Like I said
Okay.
earlier, it is quite a bit of a journey. So I came into university. It was a pre-med course. I spent most of my university life trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I liked my course. I was interested in psychology. There were so many options in terms of what I could do with it. I thought about becoming a therapist. I thought about becoming a teacher. That was big on the list. And then I ended up in HR. Actually, that was my first job, because the timing just didn't work out for me to pursue teaching, and it was a few corporate options that I had coming out. So I started coming out of undergrad. So I started in HR, and I think what I found as I spent time working with my colleagues and fellow employees was I was extremely jealous of my friends who were doing marketing and business development, because they got to meet so many people outside. They got to work on so many new projects that I found quite interesting. They were launching new products and such. So um, at that point, I decided that I wanted to switch into that type of role. But it was a little bit difficult with a psychology background to shift into a marketing function. So very,
Mm,
very early on, I decided to pursue my MBA. So I worked for a couple of years and then went back to school so that I could get myself started in marketing. And my beginnings in marketing, because I started in the US, were actually in direct marketing. And I think
okay.
there I learned that I really enjoy the more technical, analytical aspects of marketing. And that the science of it actually is what I found really fascinating. And that's what I sort of carry to this day, in terms of backing decisions with data and analytics, and then layering on that, just at the very end, the creative side, which I think some other people also get attracted to. So I found my way there, and I tried many different aspects of primarily customer marketing,
Mhm.
before making my way to branding and communications and PR, and bringing all of that together into roles such as what I hold today.
So, I mean, at least from the last couple of minutes of our conversation, people have always been, a center of attraction to how your roles have shifted or the type of stages you were in your life, but people always stay at the cornerstone of this.
That's right. Yes.
So, you mentioned your first role in marketing. How was that as an experience for you? And how did that lead you to moving into AIA as a CMO?
So I began my marketing career in the US in direct marketing. with Citibank in New York, actually. So a lot of customer campaigns that I worked on. I spent about 5.5 years there. Eventually moved back to the Philippines, still with the bank, and
Mhm.
continued a bit of that here. Shifted into the digital space, ran digital banking for them for a short while before I moved to another bank, a local bank, and became marketing head there. And then into insurance. So I was with
Mhm.
another insurance company prior to this. I spent about 8.5 years at Manulife. Um, and that's where I got my first um, education, I think, of insurance because I was in banking for many years prior to that. I had to learn a different language, different ways of working, different organization structures, and all of that I
Yes.
bring with me to this role. And I think what brought me here is one, the opportunity to take a brand that is quite well known across Asia, but not necessarily as well known in the Philippines, to help the brand grow, help the
Mhm.
brand become more relevant to more Filipinos because there is a lot that we have to offer, a lot that we can do just to help Filipinos become healthier both physically and financially and be able to sort of build and flex both muscles. I think a lot we can do to educate
Yes.
people more on the value of insurance. I think we've seen coming out of the pandemic that people are more interested. We saw things we'd not seen before happen. So there's so much more awareness now of what it means to fall ill, what that means both physically and financially, how it affects families. There's a lot more awareness on even mortality because we lost
Yeah.
so many people in the past several years. So that actually brought on more awareness of insurance as well. But I
Mhm.
think there's still a lot. So we got a bit of a bonus coming out of that as an industry because people understand us a bit better or are more aware. But there's more to educate on, more we can do because insurance is really um, more than just life insurance and the death benefit. It's something that can be part of everyone's financial planning strategy. And if people start at the right time, it's actually less costly than what many
Mhm.
expect. There's a lot of education we need to do around that. And I think that's what attracted me here. We have a strong purpose. Um, and that's really helping people live healthier, longer, better lives, and a very purpose-driven culture around that. And specifically in the Philippines, a footprint from a business perspective that allows us to bring that to life because we have a health maintenance organization, so we're the only ones in the country that have that on top of our life insurance business, and we have AIA Vitality to just help people build good habits
Yeah.
on an ongoing basis. So I think it's a nice ecosystem that enables us as a company to really bring our purpose to life and being in an environment that has such a great story to tell and have the opportunity to go out and tell that story is really why I'm here.
And one thing I also wanted to add was just, through your multidisciplinary roles across the US and now in the Philippines, how has leadership transitioned for you? How have you seen that change? And what are some of the lessons that you take away from your own journey to now becoming a leader?
So where I'm at now, and it goes back to where I was in the beginning, wanting to take care of people. And I think when I think through what I want to achieve in my current role, it's to me about being almost a manufacturer of good talent, being a manufacturer of good leaders, building strong teams. And that's more my focus now than the technical aspects of the role. I think I've come to a point where I believe now that by building the right team composed of the right people who are focused on the right things, all of the business outcomes will follow. And to your
Mm.
point, it took a journey to get there. I think early on in my career, um, it was about achievement and achieving things for myself, achieving
Yes.
things and getting my work to speak for me. I think that was what it was in the early days. As I became a leader, it was then enabling. I think in my early days, it was about teaching people how to do things, helping them get things done, and just helping us as a team deliver on whatever targets we were given. I think that's evolved now into more coaching, mentoring, enabling, empowering, um, and really surrounding myself with people who are better than me at what they do and forming a cohesive whole that can just be a much more powerful unit than we are as individuals.
So, Melissa, this leads me to my next question. Throughout your career, has there been anyone who has made a significant impact in your leadership style?
Oh, absolutely. And I think I've been quite fortunate that throughout my career, I've been under the guidance of many leaders who have really shaped the way I have grown as a leader as well. And I think I've taken a little bit away from my experiences with each of them and added it to my own leadership toolkit. So my first manager in the US was a lady named Muge Yusuak. And from her, I learned how to build relationships with my team. She would bring us together every Friday morning and we would share breakfast and we would talk about our week and what our plans were. She knew everyone's significant others, children, pets by name, would gather everyone together. So it was really about building relationships, team building, and having that care for each and every individual. And that's what I learned from her. Together, we worked for Amy Radin, who wrote the Changemakers Playbook. From her, I learned how to surround myself with people who are better and smarter than me. She named that as one of her leadership strategies. So I take that with me today. Fast forward several years. I was chief of staff to the CEO of a local bank here, who's now the chairperson of one of our insurance competitors, Nina Aguas. And she pushed me and sort of opened my eyes to possibilities, I think, more than anyone. So she's the one that gave me my first marketing head role. So she placed a bet on me. And that's something that I think I really appreciated. But even as I stepped up into that role, she was already asking me, where do you want to go next? Would you ever want to be a CEO? And she would ask me questions about things that and possibilities that I didn't imagine for myself. And I think that has just allowed me also to continue to push myself and see beyond my current limits and evaluate different possibilities. So, as you know, so I worked for a lot of very, very powerful women, as you can tell. There were also some men who I've worked for, who I've learned from. A couple of managers I had. Ryan Charland, who's now Manulife Indonesia CEO, taught me about how my influence and the good that I do needs to be at an enterprise level when it comes to people. So taking care not just of my people, but of people around as well, especially as I came into a senior leadership role. So a lot of things I've picked up from a lot of leaders that I've worked with through the years.
So, Melissa, a question I would love to ask, as a fellow marketer is what was it that you wish you knew about marketing before you delved into this particular field?
That it's full of surprises, and I think that's that we really can't ever know everything because it's all about the market, the customers, and everything just keeps changing. And I think um, that's probably what makes it so fun for me as a marketer. But maybe what has been unexpected is how quickly things are moving along, most especially
Mm.
in the past few years, and how much change really we have to deal with and have to adapt to in such a short amount of time. So I think that's the one tip I would give myself at the beginning, that nothing ever sits still. And I have to just make sure that I'm ready to keep moving.
And after such an illustrious career spanning over 20 years, can you describe a moment where you felt particularly proud or fulfilled in this journey?
I think there have been many, and most of them have been around where my team has achieved something.
Mm.
I think particularly poignant for me personally is when um, a team that maybe was struggling when I first joined, or was not necessarily at their full potential when they first came under my care, becomes then seen as a great contributor, becomes a group that's assigned significant tasks or projects or initiatives. And as someone that has several times over come in to care for and develop and build teams that were pretty nascent in the organization. I think I've had many of those moments where I've seen not just individuals achieve their potential, but teams as a whole achieving greater things. And those are, I think, the moments that um, make me most fulfilled, that make me most proud, and just keep me going.
That's lovely. And what drives you personally as in your role as a leader now?
It all goes back to people. What drives me is finding ways to help people achieve their potential,
Mhm.
to help them become better, to help bring them closer to whatever it is they want to achieve for themselves. And I think, as a leader, and when we go into the subject of care and really
Mm.
being authentically concerned of our people. I think it's not necessarily anymore just allowing them to achieve personal goals or pursuits. Sometimes it's helping people achieve greater balance so that they can actually achieve what they want for themselves personally as well. So it's really, I think that's where the focus is now. Growth is probably the one word that summarizes it all.
Okay. And we usually end our podcast conversation on this question, but I would like to ask you, if you were to win a lottery and money isn't a factor, what would you do with your time?
I would travel. I love traveling. I love visiting new places. I think it's the experience of being somewhere new and somewhere unfamiliar just enriches all of us as individuals and broadens our worldview. So if I had not a care in the world, that's what I would do. I would travel, spend most of my time away, and maybe find a base in Europe as well so I could spend some of my time here with my family
Mhm.
and my friends, sometimes somewhere in Europe, and then the rest of my time just traveling to new places.
Any place that you're is on the list that you're traveling to this year?
This year, so we've been traveling a lot around Asia as a family. So a few trips to Japan, a lot of business trips as well. Hong Kong is always on the list for me business wise because that's where AIA is based. May make a trip to UK as well. And yeah, personal, I think I'm planning a trip with my friends to Korea.
Oh, lovely. It's amazing. So, on that note, I would like to conclude our conversation today. Melissa, it was a pleasure speaking to you. And one thing I can personally take away from our entire conversation is people. That is the cornerstone of what you do and how your entire journey from childhood to your career has spanned. And I thank you for this conversation.
Thank you as well. Thank you for having me.